Hey guys, so this is What If Deku Was Colossus Part 3, guys. Now, Part 2 was pretty good. Part 2, if you haven't seen Part 2, go and watch it. I most likely, it's like a good 50% chance I won't, but will put the link in the description to my Part 2, or you can just search it up after you watch this, or after, well, you watch that, come back to this one so you can understand the story. But if your viewers have seen part 2 and came back here to see more, well, congratulate you. You're one of the OGs. Now basically just get into the story, cause I ain't gonna waste any more time. And before we get in, sorry, just gotta say this. Next week, following what I've been talking about are gonna be in there. Like what if Deku was an Eternal. I'm also gonna be uploading what if Deku was a Power Ranger. Now, basically, how it's gonna work, he's basically just gonna be able to transform into only Green Rangers, or whatever. So basically, yeah. So those are the other two confirmed what ifs I'm gonna be making next week. But other what ifs, like my other two Young Justice what ifs, because every week I'm gonna be doing My Hero, two My Hero Young Justice, two My Hero what ifs, and two Young Justice what ifs. So you guys can always look forward to at least two Young Justice what ifs each week. Maybe if I'm feeling a little bit more Young Justice or more DC, I might switch it up and only do. So basically, what would happen? Sorry, guys, for the interruption. Basically, guys, let's just get into it. Now, basically, we start our story off with pretty much last time we left off, pretty much where Deku went back home after the events of part 2, where Deku absolutely folded Ida and Bakugo. Well, they didn't fold Bakugo because Bakugo went after Kirishima, since Deku was teamed up with Kirishima, or I guess Tetsu in this case. I don't remember. I think I shipped him with the female version of Tetsu. I think I shipped Deku with her. But yeah, so basically, we continue our story off with pretty much Deku getting ready for school that morning. And basically, as he was going to school that morning, he would have bumped into pretty much, well, a former person, Deadpool. And basically, Deadpool would have told Deku, or would have told Deku to meet him later on tonight. Basically, him patting Deku's back and walking off into a really stylish red Lamborghini. Basically, Deku would have walked off being confused on why Deadpool wanted to see him after school when he doesn't even need any more training at this point. But Deku would have just walked off. Now, Deku at this point would be in his normal, unmarveled state, or untransformed, as in he doesn't have his middle skin or his middle form activated. And basically, he would walk to school, and basically he would walk into class. As he walked into class, school day would go according to its plan, the same. Eventually, it coming to a point where pretty much as well, they were told that they were going to get ready to go to the USJ. And basically, they were kind of excited, and they basically got into the bus, and as their way, they started to ask about people's quirks, and also asked about Deku's quirks, since they, last time, part 2, basically Deku showed a pretty much unhuman level of disrespect towards towards Ida. Basically, part 2, I really went into detail how Deku straight up folded Ida in a matter of, like, faster than you can blink your eye. Basically, we see pretty much Deku would have told everybody about how he's, a quirk user, blah blah blah, and pretty much he would have gone a little bit into the whole entire thing of him maybe being a mutant, but he wouldn't really say it out loud, because in this world, mutant, investigation, or like not, pretty much mutant, you know, hate, mutant hater, mutant pretty much rioters, or people that just didn't like mutants, were still a thing. And let's just say 2 people in the class didn't like mutants at all. But basically, pretty much see that students would have been talking, and basically they eventually come to the USJ. They would have walked in the USJ, and basically Deku would have been in his hero costume, same as last time. Basically, Deku would have gotten ready, and he would have morphed his skin and gone in his Colossus form. Now, basically, they would have gotten ready, and basically they would have gone to the USJ. As 13, the pro hero was telling them a speech about quirks and how they can be dangerous and all that other jazz. Basically, we'll see Deku would notice the black spot that would appear out of nowhere, and they would open up, making a huge portal, and multiple other villains or people would have ran out, basically trying to attack the students. Now, as to see, Azawa would have used his nullifying quirk to take down multiple of the, lower class villains, and basically would have told 13 to get these students out of here. 13 would try to get them out here, but he would automatically, tussle, or I guess, she would tussle with basically, well, the Shao quirk guy. Basically, they would sort of, pretty much tussle a little bit, throwing back and forth, and basically, she would still get folded, she did in the original, and they would all get teleported to the same place that they did. Now, basically, Deku, at this point, he would have tried to stop it, but basically, he would have tried to fight back like Kirishima and Bakugo did, but they would still be teleported to the same places that they were originally teleported at. As Deku woke up, Deku opened his eyes. He was falling down towards the water area. As he was falling down to the ground, basically, he pretty much saw that, he knows that he's practically invulnerable, and basically he would start to torpedo down into the water. And before, he could do anything, probably would try to grab him, but she would so quickly find out that she was way too weak to actually pull up or catch Deku, since Deku was like in his middle state and he became like 10 times heavier, or like just 2 times heavier than his normal weight. And Deku was a pretty muscular guy, even without his, pretty much half quirk, enhancing, and also his mutation of Colossus powers. Because remember part 2 and 1, basically I explained that Deku's powers are, he has an extra strength quirk, pretty much he has an extra strength quirk, and his other abilities are his mutation, meaning that he's like a hybrid quirk and mutation user. Now basically, we pretty much see that Deku would have started to, torpedo down to the water, Froppy letting go of him since she knew, or Deku told him that I had this. Now he would torpedo into the water, falling down to the bottom of the ocean, or the water area, and multiple of the villains would have tried to rush right towards Deku. As they were rushing straight towards Deku, Deku would start to dodge more attacks, basically him grabbing most of the villains and throwing them around the ocean floor, punching them upside the head, pretty much taking most of all of them in a matter of about 15 minutes. Basically, as Froppy, looked around over the side of the boat, she would have been thinking, oh my gosh, is he dead, basically? Her looking around. But she would slowly get pushed back, basically hearing a voice. And basically, the female Tetsu would have came because in this version, I think I replaced Mineta with the female version of Tetsu. But basically, she would have looked over, and Deku would have jumped out of the ocean in his human form, and using his strength enhancing quirk to basically jump out of the water. Him, getting rid of his weight by de-transforming into his, normal human form instead of his middle form. Basically, he would have jumped on top of the boat, and basically would have told them, to get ready. Now, basically, he would find a way to actually activate the boat, and they would have pretty much flow to the other side. And in this version, the villains wouldn't really sabotage the boat, or in this canon, the boat would be able to work. Now, basically, as they were getting to the other side of the land, basically Deku would have jumped off about 6 feet away when they were almost there. Basically, him as he lands transforming into his middle state, and him rushing off towards the fight. Now, basically at this point, we see Azawa be fighting the Nomu, but he would eventually still get folded as the Nomu was about to kill Azawa. Basically, Deku would have jumped in for All Might and would have straight up sucker punched the Nomu upside the head. The Nomu would have fell back about 2 feet and would have hit Deku with even a harder punching Deku out of his middle state and punching him into a rock or into a mountainside. Now, basically, he would fall out of the, pretty much crater he made when he was thrown in, and basically he would have fell down to the ground. Deku would have transformed into his middle state, falling down to the ground without any more injuries, and basically, he would have seen his normal mutation strength wouldn't be able to go up against the Nomu that much, since Colossus is pretty OP as it is, like if he goes all out. Basically, Deku would have automatically activated his enhanced quirk. Basically, what I'm trying to say is his quirk enhanced strength is about the same strength as, All For One, about, One For All, about like 50% of One For All. Pretty much, it's about 50% of One For All, his enhanced strength quirk plus the power and the strength of Colossus makes him basically technically OP, like straight up, like I mean OP, like maybe even Superman levels of strength, maybe. And basically, he would have super jumped away off of the cliff. Basically, him jumping down in the same plane where the villains were fighting, and basically multiple villains tried to stop Deku, but Deku would swat them away like flies. Him rushing straight towards the Nomu and tanking him. Basically, the Nomu and Deku would have started exchanges, like straight up devastating punches. If Deku didn't have his Colossus powers, he would have been obliterated in the first two punches All Might throw back at him. Now Deku saw that his middle state was kind of getting overbearing. He could still go, but over time, if Deku suffered enough, like a crazy amount of damage, he could be knocked out of his middle state. Or if he was just caught off guard by the strength. And that would happen the first time. He was caught off guard by the strength of the Nomu. As he was fighting the Nomu, he started to punch harder and harder, not really trying to kill it since he thought it was a person with a quirk. But over time, he would see not a single glimpse of humanity, emotion, nothing. Just pure animalistic eyes. But the creature wasn't even human, wasn't even a being in the first place, just a tool. Basically, Deku over time would try to talk to the Nomu, but he would see the Nomu wouldn't react at all. It was just trying to kill Deku. And Deku slowly saw that the Nomu wasn't human. It wasn't a person. So Deku released all of his strength, basically punching the Nomu over and over into the chest. Plus, Deku, because the Nomu is so big, and Deku is, pretty big, and also extremely strong with each punch, he started to cradle his knuckles into the flesh, about 6 inches of his fist, basically tunneled into the Nomu's chest over and over and over. Deku punching as fast as he possibly could. But basically, he was started to slam against the Nomu, him cornering the Nomu down to the ground, and him punching it over and over until it got into a crater-type form. Shigaraki would have ran up behind Deku, using his quirk on Deku, but Deku would have dodged out of the way, and basically, before he could dodge, his shoulder, that was, the suit, basically got touched. That basically, he would rip his shoulder pad of the suit that was, touched or was about to disintegrate, and basically would have looked at Shigaraki and would have ran towards him faster than Shigaraki could react, and would have drop kicked him into the water area that they were right next to. Now, basically, he would have gone back up, and as he was gone back up, he looked behind himself, and Nomu hit Deku with a furious punch. The strongest Nomu can possibly go. He hit Deku with the most furious punch in the world. Deku was sent flying out of the USJ and into the arms of All Might when All Might showed up. Now, All Might would have he would have jumped back through the hole that Deku was punched through, and basically would have thrown Deku, or not would have thrown, but would have gently laid him on the sand, and basically would have jumped right towards the Nomu and would have started to fight the Nomu. Their fight would go similar as, the same, basically them going back and forth. And eventually Todoroki and the rest of the students would have showed up. Basically, Todoroki using his ice ability to basically help out All Might and freeze the Nomu halfway, basically making it so that the Nomu would get defeated the same way. Deku would have gone back up after, he recovered from his little, huge, monstrous punch that was thrown right into his face. And Deku would have gone back up. At this point, Deku, for him to heal a little better, or him to basically feel better, he would have transformed back into his human state. Basically would have walked up the stairs to the water area and would have gone to the, same plane that the other people were at, or other students were at. And basically, he would have had some injuries as well, since Deku's first time when he was punched out of his middle state and fell into or got punched into the cliff, or into the mountain. Basically, he got really bad bruises and cuts and scrapes onto his skin, and had one of his bones slightly cracked. Not as much to, damage Deku that much, but enough to actually really, hurt Deku if he transformed back into his human state. And basically, Deku would have had to go to the hospital, and basically he would have gone to the hospital for about a day, because his, pretty much mutation would have helped him a little bit with the healing part of the bones and everything. So basically, after that, we would see pretty much Deku would have. After that, we would see Deku basically, in his room with with a little bit of a cast on. But basically, the next day, pretty much, they would have at least I think 3 days off instead of a couple days. And basically, as he was doing this, he would have went to pretty much a nearby cafe to get something to drink. Basically, him bumping into Tetsu, the female version of Tetsu. He would have started to talk to her, basically making small talk with her. They would start to talk, and she would have said that I heard the, cool thing you did, you going up against the Nomu. And basically, Deku would have said, yeah, if it just wasn't for that light, light, light-haired blue guy, I would have, well, won that fight. Basically, her chuckling and saying, okay. Basically, they would have started to talk more, and Deku would have started to flirt with her. Basically, them eventually getting closer. They would have started to talk more and more. Eventually, Deku would have gained a little bit of a crush on her. And basically, Deku would have asked her for a number, and she would gladly give it to Deku. And basically, Deku would take her number, and basically would have said to see you later. Now, he would have left the cafe after they finished their drinks, and basically, they would have walked the Temerays back to their house. Basically, Deku, before he walked away, as they were 6 feet away, he would have offered the walker to her house. And they would have walked to her house, and Tetsu, before she went to her house, she would have hugged Deku, saying, It's been nice catching up with you. See you later when school goes back." And basically, she would have walked into her house and closed the door. Now, basically, Deku would have been looking around and would have chuckled. Basically, him, looking at the number and smiling. And Deku would have walked off down an alleyway, a little shortcut towards his house, and basically as he was doing this, a couple of thugs would have tried to stop Deku. Deku pretty much hardened his body into his middle state, but he would still feel a little bit of his bone, not fully healed, but he would still be able to fight. And Deku would get into a fighting position and basically would have started to try to go up against him. Before he can do anything, one of the villains got, knocked out by the back of the head. Another villain got shot in the legs and got knocked out upside the head. Another villain got one of his arm, the third thug that was the leader of them, got his left arm completely chopped off by the shoulder. Now Deku was confused on what was going on, but he would see, the merc with the mouth, Deadpool. So basically, Deku would have seen Deadpool, and basically Deadpool would have pretty much told Deku to meet him or to follow him, and they would have followed. Deku would have taken him to his base or his crib, and basically he would have started to talk to Deku, saying that I found some information on Logan, and also found a little bit of information on your grandfather, and about how you might have, a secret brother. Now I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Who has liked and subscribed? And you're probably wondering, what the heck did you? What? Basically, kind of confused. But basically, guys, you'll find out more about that near the end of part 4. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys liked and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day.